All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the Minoans and Linear B. Sorry, the Mycenaeans and Linear B. That's a great way to start. A whole other okay. Mycenaeans and Linear B. Now, of course, we have to set the scene, so to speak. So, as the Minoan culture thrived on the island of Crete and about the surrounding Aegean Sea, mainland Greece was developing a thriving culture during the early Hellenic period, ranging from 2750 to 2000 BCE. There happened to be a non-Indo-European people that dominated Greece. They practiced agriculture and they knew metallurgy. A little bit of trivia, by the way, of villages that end in SSOS, Ossus, date from this earlier period, this non-Indo-European period. Now, much like the Minoans, those living in Greece during the early Hellenic appeared to be a peaceful people. Then around 2000 BCE, here comes the Indo-Europeans, and they enter into Greece and ushering in what's called the Middle Hellenic period, ranging from 2000 to 1550 BCE. These invading Indo-Europeans, they're a little bit ruthless, with villages of the non-Indo-Europeans either burned to the ground or abandoned. Although there are some cases where the Indo-Europeans and the early inhabitants did interact, did sometimes blend together. Now, these Indo-Europeans spoke Greek, and so we can say at this point, Greek culture enters Greece. Okay, those who are speaking the Greek language. Now, these first Greeks were known as the Mycenaeans, and they really had to adapt to a very difficult terrain that was rocky and hot and jagged hills. And, the mountains are divide up these areas that kind of isolate one group from the other, and so they didn't blend very well. That's the best way to put it. But there you have it. They raised grapes and olives, and those along the coast, also had fish. And then by the late Hellenic period, that's from 1550 BCE to 1150 BCE, the Mycenaeans then really developed an urban culture as well. And they became even more aggressive. So the prosperity, this is a prosperous period of time. Now, I got to tell you, there was a great civilization. Those are the Minoans. This talk is not about the Minoans, but they were pretty advanced in many ways. Unfortunately, they went through a catastrophe that still confuses many today. I mean, basically, the Minoans, they were more or less an egalitarian culture for a long period of time. They did not have walls around their cities. They did have indoor plumbing. They were very advanced in many different ways. Beautiful outfits, clothing, fashion styles, and ringlets in the hair, and saffron and jewels and everything else. I mean, they were very advanced in many different levels. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end. And so there was a series of earthquakes that weakened the infrastructure of these various cities. And then all of a sudden, there was an explosion, right? The former island of Thera exploded, the caldera sinking into the sea. And this explosion was about 5 times larger than the Krakatoa explosion of 1883, 700 tons of TNT. In fact, the explosion and debris went as high as 30 miles into the air. Now, Not that the eruption was a complete surprise to those at Thera. There's evidence that they evacuated ahead of time, but it really did destroy not only this island, but much of the civilization all about it. Not only with the dust cloud, but with these tidal waves. Now, I got to tell you, now, Krakatoa, it had tidal waves about 50 feet, but this one, the tidal waves were about 100 to 150 feet. Can you imagine a 150-foot tidal wave, approaching you? I mean, it impacted the entire northern coast of Crete, wedging seashells into the sides of the hills. Plus, of course, the plume at the debris would choke out the sun and really harm agriculture for the next 3 years. In fact, it even affected Egypt during the same period of time. But the Minoan civilization, which had a great, a great sea force and infrastructure and writing system, which is linear A, and I told you egalitarian. Even when it comes to wealth, it was shared more equally. We know that from the archaeology. Now, this great civilization rather it kind of comes to an end. Well, it does come to an end, but it's more of a blending. So the Mycenaeans they sweep in. Um, the evidence proves that the Mycenaeans actually slowly trickle in for a period of time, and they seem to at first adapt to Minoan culture and try to carry on the day-to-day business, uh, even the bureaucratical efficiency as much as possible at first. But then around, so this is around 1500 BCE, but then around 1400 BCE, there's another wave of Mycenaeans, and the pretense basically was over, and the Minoan palaces began to be abandoned, and the Mycenaean culture seemed to assert itself. Up until the excavations of ancient Troy by Schliemann, which began in 1871, and of course, his also excavations of Mycenae, starting in 1874. Most scholars knew very little about the Mycenaean civilization, except for references in the Iliad and the Odyssey. In fact, Troy and Mycenae were believed as to be pure fictions up until we get to the 19th century by many. Now, let's give a little summary. We're going to go in more detail when we're going to go through these. Yes, we're going to go through the Linear B documents, but let's just give a general overview. Politically, uh, the Mycenaeans were a collective of monarchies overseeing various regions. Each king was known as a Wanax, who was essentially a warlord. In the same tradition of the Minoans, there was a very large bureaucracy that supported these rulers, with many records, as we will see, of Linear B left behind to show their daily financial transactions. Mycenaean merchants traded various goods, oil, animal skins, and traded for jewelry and so forth, right? Sometimes these luxury goods are repurposed to conform more to their tastes. And eventually the Mycenaean kings had the viewpoint that the accumulation of wealth uh, made them look more powerful. So they started to really kind of hoard uh, all these luxury goods and treasures. In fact, and they would gather all these treasures in order to facilitate their war. Yes, these kings were more focused upon war than trade. It's easier to just grab what we want than trade for it. They did this uh, too much, a little bit, and they got the reputation from those along the coast. Uh, for example, the Luvians and the Hittites as being pirates, marauders, right? Well, okay, so there you have it. Now, the kings and the nobles typically had accumulated the most wealth, obviously. While before the Minoans had very little in the way of fortifications, except towards the end when they became a little bit more secure. When it comes to the Mycenaeans, they built their grand fortresses on the top of mountain peaks, the Acropolis, right? And they defended uh, this against their fellow kings. They weren't always working together. In fact, as we know, not just from the Iliad and the Odyssey, but we also know in an archaeological sense that they were, didn't like each other very well at times. They fought each other. Sometimes they had alliances and so forth, but it's a warrior culture, right? And as I said before, they're notorious pirates at the same time. And hey, you know, sometimes they just pirated one another. And even the Egyptians knew them as a bunch of pirates. So now, as far as the Mycenaean religious beliefs, we'll go into detail in that when we talk about the linear B. But they were essentially, of course, polytheistic. They worshiped a series of Indo-European gods. These are the precursors of the Greek gods that we know very well, and the origins of much of Greek mythology. Yet the question becomes which gods were worshipped by the Mycenaeans and which ones were added with the advent of the Greek Dark Ages. We're gonna actually address that question during the course of this lecture, and you will see exactly what we know about these gods from the Mycenaean records. How much of the gods and goddesses referred to by the Homeric writings were close to those worshipped by the Mycenaeans? And the answer is most of them. So you will be surprised. Furthermore, how much of the Minoan gods and goddesses were absorbed by the Mycenaeans, along with the other indigenous groups? And we will realize that there's quite a few of them. Mostly the female deities of the Minoans were absorbed because apparently the Mycenaeans didn't have a lot of female deities, but the Minoans had it aplenty. We can assert with very high confidence that the Mycenaeans, being Indo-Europeans, and we know this from the facts, did worship all high god by the name of Deus Piter. And of course we know that Deus Piter traveled east with the Indo-Europeans and entered into India, where he became known as Dias Pitra, who is a creator of the world via the goddess Mata Plivni. As for Greece, he became known as Deus Pater, and then, of course, obviously Zeus Pater, or simply Zeus. From the word Deus, we also derive the word deity as well as divine. And then, of course, moving further west, the name for this all-high god became Jupiter, for the Latin, of course, obviously evolving into Jupiter or Jupiter. Most of the Mycenaean deities, as I mentioned, were male, reflecting their patriarchal background. This means, as I said, the majority of the females came from the indigenous, although there was a nature deity that was worshipped by the Europeans. Like most ancient religions, Mycenaeans made offerings to the gods intended as sacrifices. We'll go into that, right? The fact that some of these sacrifices happen to be human, as we have found evidence of, kind of disturbs people. But then again, you think to yourself, King Agamemnon, remember, is a sacrifice of Iphigenia, right? So there we go. Now, here we go. Now we're entering into it. Between 1500 and 1400 BCE, a new writing system that we can read, known as Linear B, gradually replaced Linear A, which is the writing system of the Minoans. Unlike the Minoans, scholars have completely deciphered the Mycenaean writing system. Linear B consists of around 87 symbolic signs and over 100 ideographical signs. These ideograms, signifying signs, symbolize objects and sometimes commodities, and these don't have any phonetic value. The script was discovered by the archaeologist by the name of Sir Arthur Evans in the early part of the of the 19th century, sorry, 20th century, excuse me, during the excavations of Crete and the Greek mainland. Uh, the of course, he determined that the archive that he found at Knossos on Crete was destroyed around 1400 BCE, which basically baked and preserved these clay tablets. This view seemed to be the consistent view until Carl Bleger excavated the site of Pylos in 1939 and uncovered tablets inscribed in Linear B. And it turned out that these were uh, uh, burned and then preserved around 1200 BCE. So we do have quite a range of tablets from the 15 to around 1200 BCE. So there you have it. You know, it's kind of interesting that through destruction arrives preservation. So if it wasn't for these conflagrations, these fires, we maybe would not have been preserved because it literally baked these tablets so that they are preserved for us. Now, as far as decipherment of the text, did not occur until 1953 when Michael Ventris, he was an architect, but he liked linguistics and epigraphy. So he and a certain John Chadwick, who knew a lot about the Greek language, they worked together and they figured out the phonetic values of Linear B signs and created the lexicon. What Ventris and Chadwick uncovered is a script that consists mostly of signs that represent syllables, a fair amount of logograms, and a base 10 number system. And we will go into this, of course, right now. So here we go. So what I want to do is I want Margie to show on the screen the chart that shows Linear B. So go ahead and take a look there. And you see here, okay, so the ancient Mycenaean does include the same vowel sounds that we have. As you can see on the very top there, you see an A, you see an E, you see an I, you see an O, and you see a U. You guys all see that, the top row? But they will also have another letter altogether when a vowel is paired with a consonant. Got it? So an A by itself will have a different letter than when an A is matched up with, for example, a K consonant. So the standard Mycenaean consonants you can see here. So take a look going down now on the left-hand row. You have, of course, you got the D, you got the Ya, you got the D, you got the J, you got the K, you got the M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, W, Z. Now it's interesting because the W does go out, Greek language, as well as the Yi, right? Ya. So there you have that. Keep it up for a little bit more. So yet the Greek language will have other sounds like the B and the G and the phi and the thi, and the sounds. So how come these sounds are not represented? Well, many scholars believe that the system was actually designed for non-Greeks. It was adapted by the Mycenaeans, and they adapted the best as they could. But in some cases, it didn't fully adapt. And some of this background was actually Linear A. So there you have it, right? So yeah, there's no L there, right? Somebody noticed that, right? Yeah, I know. It's missing there as well, and so they have to adapt. Exactly. Good question too, by the way. So there was a pre-Greek language of Crete, and simply the incoming Greeks adapted and adopted this writing system for their own use without changing systematically much of how it moved across the way. Okay, so There you have a general idea of how the system works. So you take a look here, and I want you to look. So you see there that you got the da, and you see the symbol there. So it's da, de, di, do, do. You got for the ya, it's a ya, not a j sound. Ya, ye, yo. And you got the ka, ke, ki, ko, ku, ma, me, mi, mo, mu, na, ne, ni, no, nu, pa, pe, pi, po, pu, pa, pe, qui, ko, ra, re, ri, ro, ru, sa, se, si, so, su, ta, te, ti, to, tu, wa, we, we, ho, za, ze, so. Sorry. It sounds like do, re, mi. So there you have it. So that means that there's a different symbol. Okay, a different symbol for each of with a consonant matched with a vowel. You guys, now before we take this off, I want you may want to just for fun take a screenshot or take a picture of that so we can refer to that later on. It might be helpful. You guys got it? Okay, so take it off the screen. Thank you so much, Margie, for that. Wow, see, we're already going there, right? We're already going. Now, also, I want to say that there are other letters that represent putting together the diphthongs. So basically, diphthongs, these are double sounds or double tone, known as the gliding vowel. And so in Greek, you have the alpha iota. So I'm going to just state everything in English for you guys. So you have the AI as an isle, EI as an eight, the OI as an oil, the AU as in sauerkraut, the OU as in soup, the I as in sweet, and of course the EU as in feud. So you have these are called diphthongs. So these are two vowels put together, and they actually have separate signs just for those diphthongs. I do have a picture here of them, so you can take a look there. There we go. And so that means more representations. I'm not sure if you want a screenshot of that, but these are the diphthongs. And this is where we get the vowels that go together. And these are also used, sold separately. Okay, so you see here, you do have an AE sound, but it's pronounced oftentimes ha, ha, with a breathing. So you got a, which of course is the rough breathing mark in Greek. So you do have a ha sound there. You have an AI sound, you have an AU, but then you have some strange ones. You have a DWE sound. It's like, what in the world is that? You have a DWO sound. You have a NWA sound. Whoa, I mean, look at that. NWA. And then you have the PTE sound. So you got some pretty exotic sounds here. And of course, you can see the bottom level, diphthongs as well. So it does get a little complicated. Now, as seen here, linear B signs usually represent consonant vowel syllables, but the syllabic structure of Greek allows initial consonant clusters ending in consonants as well as diphthongs. Okay, so there you have that. Sorry, it's so much language, but you wanted to learn, so why not? Now, there's another chart here that I want to bring up, and that is putting things together, coming together. So what we do is we put these words together, these letters together, and I want to show you a few, just because we're having fun. But before we do that, I want to familiarize you with each of the letters, just because I want to. Okay, so just because you see so many clusters, you're going, oh, my brain. So if you want to get a piece of paper, you want to write these down, sure, why not? And maybe you can phonetically spell your name by the end, right? If you write these down or screenshot, and you know the letters, you may be able to actually write your name today in linear B. How cool is that? Okay, so this is the A. That's what the A looks like, you know? So that's the A, right? This looks like the A, but this is the E. So it looks like an A, but has like a little extra little line across. This is the I. It does kind of look like an I, doesn't it? You know, or maybe a port of some kind. This is the I vowel. This one right here is the O. I don't know what this looks like. Almost looks like a toilet with the lid open. I don't know, you know, but, or maybe it's a throne, you know, I don't know, but there it is, right? I'm sorry. This is the U. This is what the U looks like. And we're going to go through these, okay? And this right here is now the DA combination, da, as in da mater. So just a line. I like the DE. Look at the DE. Oh, ooh, that's cool. It looks like it's a, you know, like a tripod, or there's a flames on top, right? You can see that, right? Then the DI looks like this. This is the DI, right? This one's a DO. How I memorize this one is I pretend that it's one of those circles, the driving circles, traffic circle. Does it look like a traffic circle, or is it just me, right? This right here, ooh, this is fancy. This is the do. And when I look at the do, I think of this as a dancing lady. Dun, dun, dun. Does she look like she's dancing? You know, because the legs are kind of turned, the arms are up sweep. I don't know. It's a very beautiful, beautiful letter. These are beautiful. J, which of course is the first part of my name, the JA sound looks kind of boring. It's like a can. The JE, kind of X with these the curved edges at the top. So X marks the spot. The JO has a nice little curve there. It's like, ooh, swinging. KA. You will never forget this for the rest of your life. This is the easiest to remember. This is the ka sound, K-A. So the consonant and the vowel. But look at that. It's a circle with an X. You do know that right now, you're going to memorize this right now. That means you'll look at linear B tablets and you'll immediately, forever, from this day forward, be able to go, ka, I can read that. You can impress your friends. Isn't that great? I like the KE. It looks like a volcano, does it not? You know, the KE, KE, right? KI, it's the triangle that's upside down with a little weird thing at the very edge there. You guys are having fun. I am. You got right here, you got the toe. The toe looks like a tree or a tat of some kind. Yeah, maybe. This is the ku. This is really a pretty letter. The ku. This one, this is the ma. You know, I look at this and it kind of looks like a ma, does it not? Look, I picture the arms up and well, you got the body and well, yeah, there's curves, right? I mean, the ma has curves, it has ma curves. So you will never forget this. I'm serious. You'll see the ma. When you see this, you will never ever forget this because the ma is unusually shapely. And just think of a lady with her arms up, and the meh. By the way, the meh is kind of meh. So, oh boy, really meh. Then you got the my, the me, which is a little altered at the top here. The mo, the mo. I always think of the mo as somebody whose mouth is open and the tongue is sticking out. When you know, it's kind of a side profile. The moo is this, which is really kind of complicated, but yeah, not that exciting. The na, it looks like a wine glass that has something on top, like a line across it. Na. Oh, this is elegant. This almost looks like a vase. The net, the ne, right? Look at that. Ooh, good. The nigh is always fun to do. I like doing the knives, the knees, excuse me. So you basically just make a Y and then you X, X, and there it is. The no is just simply no. It looks like a snake that's fallen out of the basket. There's the basket. There's a snake falling out, and it's set up there. The new is right there. There's like this portal, this gateway. Maybe it's like a stargate or something, right? The new. Who knew, right? The pa, which of course is the first for pater, right? For father. There it is. So you'll see this. And I mentioned father. You'll see that one. The P right there. It's interesting. That's pretty easy. Make a line, a triangle, and two other lines. Here's pi. Looks like an insignia from Star Trek, but there you have it. So you have the triangle there in the cross section. This one you'll see quite a bit. This is Poseidon, and it looks kind of like a throne, and a little thing sticking out there. So that's a throne. Oh, I like poo. The poo. This is really shapely. What I think is so cool when I see these characters, it really does have little feet. Little feet there. So it has 3 feet. This one is interesting. This is the clock, and it looks like somebody has earphones or just big ears, or it's a balloon that's moving around. I don't know. We'll never forget this one. Ready for this? This is the key. Look at that. With the circle with lines. That's pretty hard not to miss, right? And of course you have the key right there, which is not too exciting. And then we get to the quo. And we're going to get to a real fun one in a few moments. The quo. They're just kind of the status quo there. This is the raw. Now, I like this. The raw. Doesn't this look like the sun? So a good way to remember the raw is you have, looks like Ra, who's the sun god, even though there's no connection. Looks like the sun that is there. The ray has a trident. That's easy to remember. The rye, there it is. Yay. The rye is interesting because it looks like a person, but has like a little wild hair that sticks out up there. The row is just a cross, just simply a cross. That's all it is. The roux is this one, has like little waves going through it. The sa, there it is. The sa is pretty cool. I like that one. The se is this one. Lying with it, we're almost done. But I do want to go through all the psi. Ooh, I like this one. That's really it. Yeah. And of course, the so is right below it. Looks like the pi symbol that's sideways, doesn't it? A little bit there. This is kind of boring. The Sioux right here. This one here is also on the top, kind of not that exciting. Looks like a tack or something. You'll see this one a lot. This is the PE, right? So this one you'll see often. You'll see it today. And this is now TI. Again, another insignia. Now the toe looks like a telephone pole. I'm serious. This is a real one. This is a 2. And it's so cute because it's the first letter for the word daughter. And it looks like either a heart or an apple. Does it not? I'm serious. It really looks this way. I don't wonder, what's the origins of this? Probably an apple. But the modern notion of a heart certainly looks like it. But there is a stem there. That's really cool. And came through. And then we have a walk, which looks like I always think of that. This is like a water tower there. This is the way. And of course, obviously the W dropped out of the Greek language. It's like an S there. There's the Wi-Fi. This is right here, the row. You can see it has like an anchor that's sideways at the very top of the triangle. The za is exactly like an ankh. That's what it looks like. It really does look this way. In fact, some of the ones I've seen look even more like an ankh. It's like identical. And I think that's interesting how symbols are used in different ways. This is the zo, which I always think is like a lady talking, her tongue sticking out, and she's pregnant. You got the arrow there. Yep, the arrow. And of course, obviously, this will be used a lot. The diphthong, this is the ha. We're not going to go through all the diphthongs. Well, we're not going to go through. All right. There's AI. Woohoo! Looks like going online here. And of course, we have the AI2. Another one. This is an interesting one. This is the queen. These are not used as much, this one here, but it looks like a queen right there. Moi, moi. It's like somebody, like two forks, pitchforks, I don't know. This is, it has attached ears, and this is the pa, and so forth. You can see these here. Yeah. Now, we put all these together, and of course, we spell words. Yeah, lots of fun words. So what kind of words? Well, let's go. Let's spell some words, shall we? So, here we go. So, I hear, look here, we got there is ku, na, ya. Ku, na, ya. And that means, what does it mean? Of course, it means woman, right? Ku, na, ya. The next one, is, it's backwards when I read there. It's tu, ka, te. See, tu, ka. You know the ka now, all right? There's tu, ka, te. If you're reading this now, you're reading Linear B. Woo-hoo! How about mom? Let's get to mom. Okay, sure. Ma, te, ra. Ma, te. Remember the ma with the curves? Oh, yeah. Te, ra with the fork. This, of course, this right here is man, right there. And you see the po, ra, quo. Man. To, cool. We're going to do a few more of these. Father, there's the father right there, right there. Pate, right? Pate. This right here is this is the word king. Remember we talked about Wanix? So this is wa. Remember the water towel? Wa. There's the wine glass right there. That's the na. And there's the ka again. Wanix, right? And let's give you a few god names too. So we got Tos, Sai, Do, O, Poseidon. And right here, te, me, to. Tomato. Of course, this is Artemis. You see right there's a letter corresponds with each of the sounds. So it makes sense, right? I mean, you are understanding Mycenaean. This is really cool. I will show you a few more, but I'm not gonna point to it. I just kind of want you to see now that we have, now you're getting to be an expert level, right? We can see how these words work. You can see these right here. You got the word, you got tripod, you got axes, you got new wine, right? Lots of cause everywhere. Did you notice that? You have, of course, boy, koum, and swords, and daughter, and king, and Egyptian. A few of these. Move on to another topic. I just want to show you a few more here. Here. These are fun. Sorry, these too much. Okay. All right. So you're thinking, okay, I got this down. Well, we'll go more into it, but you kind of understand now how the language works a little bit. But there are also several logograms. Yeah, so that means that they just have a symbol that represents the idea, as opposed to saying the word out. I know. So in addition to the phonetic symbols, which we just went over, we have those symbols that represent just the ideas themselves, and you're going to love it. So the symbol for a man, we can all draw it. So in Mycenaean, there is a word for man. We just shared that with you, the written out version. That's why I did that. But what's the symbol for man? Unfortunately, they'll use this in reference to slaves, or they'll use this in reference to, anyway. So this is the symbol. All you have to do, pretty cool. It's the symbol. It's the Mycenaean symbol. You make an X, and then you cross over the top, and you put a circle on top, and that's a man. And that's what they use, the ideogram of a man. Looks like a man. He's got the broad shoulders there, and his head on top. Now, this is this word for woman. This is the ideogram. Now, it's interesting here because it looks like she has this long dress, right? And her arms are out and there's her head. I'm serious. These are real ideograms. These are what they really do use. So as opposed to just, writing the word out, they'll just use this. Got it? I'll share a few more. This is the word. This represents a wheel. So as opposed to writing the wheel out, they'll just draw this. This right here is a jar. It looks like a jar, doesn't it? It has the handles on there. And so if they have X amount of jars, they'll have the number of jars, which will go over the number system in a few minutes. But you see they have the jar symbol as opposed to writing out the word jar. This is a symbol for wheat. This is cloth. And does it look like a cloth? Look, it has like the tassels there. You gotta love this. This is wine, symbol for wine. And there it looks like it's interesting. Two things side to side. This is bronze right here. Wool is very interesting. It's very complicated. This is wool. A symbol for wool. This is barley symbol right here. Nice weird curve there, huh? Weird is a very academic word. Olive oil, it took me forever. This is really the symbol. It's very complicated to draw. That's not easy. This one looks like an angry man, doesn't it? I mean, he has like a hat there. His arms are on his hips. He's upset. This is actually the word for gold, symbol for gold, I should say. Then these are figs. Yep. And right here, flax. And then saffron, symbol for saffron right there. That's a pretty one. Sheep is this one. Ox, this one. This is ox. Now, I like cheese. We all like cheese. Well, this is the symbol of cheese. Apparently, they love cheese too. You got the apple on top, and there's like little something underneath, this round circle with a line through it. Honey. Apparently, looks like he has honey in his mind there, right? And this complicated one, this is ointment. Look at that. Yeah, that's really strange. Now, when they look at the various animals, this is I'm serious. This is pig, and if they're talking about a female, of the version of it, so that would be, of course, sow. The sow would have the two lines, but if it's male, the one line down. So basically, you have the vertical line, and that represents its female. And if it's a boar, it's two lines. This is what they do all the time in general for animals. So, for example, with sheep, this is the general for sheep. This is ram. You got the two lines representing the masculine, and you got this, looks like a dress, and this represents the feminine. And so this is how they designate these things, right? So as we go through, okay, so we got the ideograms. Is this cool? All right, so, but of course you got to count, right? You got the numbers. You got to, so let's start with the numerical system a little bit. The numerical system is for 1, they have a line. For 10, the line goes this way. Okay, so this way for 1, and then they skip all the numbers, and they go by ones, and this is 10. This is this 0. The circle here represents 100. This circle with the dots on each, well, not end, but on the 4 sides there, sides, we're doing a circle. This represents 1,000, and this one represents 10,000. So how do they write their number system? They do, is they start off with the largest amount. So let's just say the largest amount is 100. Let's just say there's 200 of something. Say it's 200 and 15. Okay, 215. So basically, it's 215. You would have 2 circles drawn. Got it? 1 line representing 10, and 5 of this vertical line representing the 5, and it adds up to 215. You guys got it? One more time, right? So say it's 215. Got it? So you draw a circle, and you draw 2 of them because you're doing 200. And then you draw, since it's 215, well, you got 10, so you count for 10. So you put 1 line, and then for 15, for the 5 additional, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of this line. Isn't that cool? So I got a quiz for you. Wow, here it is. So you looked at this. Now the one, here it is. So tell me, what number is this? Now this, of course, represents 1,000. So what number is this? If yes, 113.57. But yeah, close enough. Yeah, that's good, right? 1,357. Yeah, so yeah, is that good? You guys got it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. No, 138. You're right. No, you're right, Sarah. 138. Because I added an extra line there. Yes, 138. Yes, yay. Isn't that great? Good job, Sarah. Is that fun? So yeah, so this is something I think that you could do at home. It'd be fun just to practice, just like you're bored, it's a rainy day, and make some circles, some lines, and see what the decipherment is. Isn't it easy? You're never going to forget this. You're never going to forget this. It's stuck in your brain. Isn't learning Mycenaean? Isn't it fun? Aren't you having fun? Yeah. Okay. So there's a few other things too that's the most fun parts. Obviously, we need to get to the text, or you guys will be upset with me. But you know, but I want to make sure that you understood how it works, right? And I do have some sentences here, but nobody has time for that. So I'm going through this. Okay, sorry, I'm getting through the pages I've gone through here. Okay, now when it comes to the verbs, basically, long and the short of it is that Mycenaean Greek and Ionic, which is on the east, this is the coast of Asia Minor. They're more similar and then to one another than Doric. Doric is actually further away from Mycenaean. So if you want to see a closer parallel, it will be an Ionic. So, but they do have their conjugation is pretty much the same as we do have with ancient Greek and modern Greek. So we do have all that. So nothing really has changed all that. You have the endings are kind of the same, right? You do have obviously when it comes to, you have first person, second person, third person, and all that, and also you have nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive, and again, so the same rules apply. The most important thing you just learned, because learning the symbols. Once you learn these symbols, then it's like you can put on your brain, put on your Greek mind, and you're on your way. Does that make sense? You're on your way. You don't have time to go through all the sentence structures, or we'll be here all night. But the hardest part actually is what we just did, is getting used to the new writing system, and you just basically adapt from there. So, but I want to jump into and Philip, yeah, that's a good reference, by the way. I want to jump into something that is. I want to go into the records. I want to go into what Linear B tells us. Okay, so one of the collections is at Knossos, and this is near the central coast of Crete, and it was had quite a population. It's the site, of course, of a large palace. Some say the population was as high as 10,000. It was destroyed around 1450 BCE, but I have to say it was fixed up, and the Mycenaeans retained and rebuilt things up until 1370 BCE, and then of course, so that means we have some records from this period of time. Much of the Linear B tablets are in the form of lists, and Zeus is referenced by name. In fact, there's a tablet that reads, in the month Adikulius, to Dictatean Zeus, so dedicated to him, 1 measure of oil, to the Dadadalian, 2 measures of oil, to the priestess of the winds, 4 liquid measures of, and it kind of cuts off, and to the lady of the labyrinth, honey. You got to give the lady some honey, right? So Poseidon appears by name at Knossos. This is one of 3 sites we're going to be looking at. And we realize that he received an ox and a pig and a sheep for a sacrifice. It's interesting because looking at this, the recording priest seems to actually had made a correction. This offering was intended for another god, but he changed it. So hey, you know what? Even scribes make mistakes. So there are scribal errors here and there. But Poseidon is mentioned by name, and he is a top god, right? Other deities mentioned on these lists is Ares, and there is many goddesses that use the word Potania. Potania in Mycenaean means mistress. So you have one mistress who's known as Potnia or Potania Athena. Potania Athena. Who is Potania Athena? Well, it means mistress of Athens, which is very curious, right? And it looks like this word even goes back a little earlier to, yes, Linear A, which is Minoan. Which is fascinating. So it's a loan word that kind of comes in from the Linear A, one of many words that are used. And so it looks like there is this. She also this Athena, this Athens or Athena, appears in Minoan as well as Mycenaean, in Linear A as well as Linear B. So she seems to be very important early on. So Atheno Potinia, right? So she is Mistress Athena. And I just find that so interesting to me. I'm actually looking for the word. There it is. I just want you to see it there. There it is. There we go. Yeah. Atana Poitinia. See it? Yeah, there it is. It's all written out. Okay. I want to make sure that you saw. Oh, and here is the word Poseidon right there. You see it there? Hey, now we're familiar with these letters, right? Yeah, I recognize the toilet lid up in that one. Okay. So, there you go, right? Okay, good. So, Potinia means mistress. It does mean mistress. So we see the word mistress. Now the Mycenaeans, it looks to me like the word Athena. This is fascinating. The word Athena also is connected to another word. I'm sorry, can I nerd out just a little bit? It's not only connected to Minoan, but also appears to be a Luvian or Luwian bone word. Luwians are the little stepbrothers. They hate me to tell you that. Those are the connected to the Hittites, but they're Indo-Europeans. They're related to the Hittites. They came down around the same time, and they occupied the coasts of Asia Minor along the western and southern coasts. But the Athena is very close to the Luwian Astanas. Astanas, which means sun. So many scholars will say, hey, maybe this Atana is also a goddess of the sun. Isn't that fascinating? Because there is so much of a sun kind of cult that we see in symbols of the sun. Of course, it gets to the point that there's so many symbols of the sun, and the majority of the times it is represented, if there's any figure with it, it's represented with the female figure. It's never represented, except in 2 occasions, with the male figure, which I think is fascinating. So there appears to be a sun goddess in connection with the Minoan into the Mycenaean period of time, known as Atana. Are we learning things here or what? Yeah. So there you have it. In fact, sometimes it's a long-robed woman adored and with a ray, a solar symbol. So it's pretty amazing. There is another deity that's represented there. That's Elathea, which we know Elathea is another Minoan goddess that will become adapted by the Mycenaeans and will become a Greek one as well. And there's the spelling right there, now that we see it. But it's I-ra-u-te-ya, right there. You get used to the ya, it looks like a jam there. Yeah, so that is this goddess. She is mentioned at Knossos, drum roll please, connected to a cave located at Amnisos. Amnisos, Amnisos, Amnisos. And so there is it's interesting because in association with her, there is no males represented whatsoever. They, as far as high level clergy, they're all priestesses. In fact, the majority of the goddesses are served by priestesses. Now, I'll give you the exception to the rule, but it's kind of fun. In the case of Atana, there are some males. They're not priests. They're slaves. So for Atana, for this, this priestess of the winds, there's one male mentioned as the slave of the gods, Teodoro. So there you have it. Anyway, okay. Yeah, she is an early Minoan goddess. She's now Mycenaean. She's a goddess of childbirth and the divine helper of women in labor. She has an obvious origin in connection to midwifery, right? The word becomes connected to a Greek verb, elithu, which of course means to bring. So she becomes known as the one who is the bringer. The cave that is mentioned, by the way, also want to mention that there's a connection between her and Demeter. And there's a reference to that in the Homeric hymn to Demeter. There's a mention where her beliefs came from Crete and so forth and so forth. Anyway, scholars are certain that this cave known as Amnisos, which is the harbor town of Knossos, was indeed the one that was identified by the Minoans as being there. There are 2 stalagmites, one larger than the other, were positioned at the center of the shrine, complete with an altar and encircling wall. One Mycenaean Linear B tablet specifically mentions that a goddess by the name Aletheia was worshipped specifically here, where the cave was located. In fact, I'll read it to you. Amnisos, names the place. 1 jar of honey to Aletheia, 1 jar of honey to all of the gods. Unquote. And there it is. Okay. The worship of her, as I said, passed from the Minoans into the Mycenaeans. There's other interesting things from this list here is that there is a mention of a dove goddess sanctuary, which includes a dagger symbol. That seems to be important. And a lot of scholars are kind of wondering, why is a dagger so important to these goddesses? And these are mostly actually they're all priestesses. Of course the thing is, well, these priestesses need to defend themselves too, with daggers. Also at Knossos, there was a celebration of the festival of the god carrying. So there's a god carrying festival, the Theophoria, right? The carrying of the god. The tablets here show a complex bureaucracy at work with an interest in all many aspects of the economy of the area. Revenues collected here are provided for the upkeep of the temples and shrines, as well as the priestesses in a large surrounding area. And like I said, there's a lot of priestesses here. There's also what's of interest is what's called the Potnea of the labyrinth, or the mistress of the labyrinth. And of course, this is, many will say that, well, maybe this is connected to the site mentioned in the Iliad, where there happened to be the dancing ground made for Eridané by the craftsman Pylos, right? So there's a possibility there. But the word labrys, some people will say it comes from the root a double-bladed axe. Double-bladed axe. So as opposed to a maze, it's a double-bladed axe. Labrys, right? But the problem is, I mean, it could be, but it's interesting that every time it appears within the Mycenaean context, it's never with, again, with men, it's with women. And so there could be another context. Others will say that labrys is connected to the word larva, which means narrow street. There's lots of fighting over this, but we won't go into that right now. That's another topic for another time. But there you have it. So let's move on. Fascinating place. We got to move on to Thebes. Let's move on to Thebes. Now, the archive at Thebes, this is in Boeotia in central Greece, north of Athens. And of course, the settlement goes back to the time of the Mycenaeans. The city is referred to during the time of Amenhotep III, which is 1388 to 1351 BCE, the Egyptians. So it was thriving at the time. Thebes is also mentioned in Hittite and Luwian records by those at Miletus, as well as those at Cyprus. Now, at Thebes, the Linear B tablets refer to a tribute being sent to the house of Potnea, which of course is the house of the mistress. And we see this even more here, is that yes, they use the word Potnea in reference to other gods, other goddesses like Mistress Athena will have Mistress Artemis and so forth. But you'll see even more here, just simply a reference to the mistress. We see it a few times at Knossos, but even more here, and even more at Pylos. The idea is that there's the worship of simply a goddess that is only known as the mistress without any other designation. So now let's just kind of get into the bureaucracy of the whole thing as I drop all my notes. So here we go. One group of officials at Thebes. I mean, you're wanting to hear this, so I'm going to give you, hey, you're going to get a slice of life. One of the officials at Thebes, who is also found at Pylos as well as Knossos, were known as the collectors. The collectors, they are connected to the palaces, but as well as the palace territories. And they are involved in various activities of the palace. They are involved, for example, in livestock management. We see this at Pylos. At Knossos, there's at least two collectors that are mentioned, and they're connected with the registration for the sacrifice of the animals. Okay, so we see this. There's a place that is known for animal slaughter and is designated. Now we'll take a look here, and there's the term that's used is called opa. Opa. It occurs in 6 Thebes seals, and opa refers to the finishing of the animals. That is, bringing them to the expected and satisfactory stage of readiness for their final use. The OPA, basically, what will happen is that we know from these records that the animal is brought by the collectors and it's there for about 30 days. So 30 days. During those 30 days, it goes through at least 5 different parties who do various actions to get the animal ready for sacrifice. Obviously, including feeding them on a regular basis. We find references to 30 units of fodder, as well as other bits and pieces there. And after a period of time, of course, the sacrifice occurs, right? And the collectors, again, are the ones that put them all together. Now they collect them, here we go, in center of the palace areas. Why am I pausing? Because I'm smiling. So they, archaeology has revealed that many of these areas are square shaped. So they're brought, these herds, livestock are brought into this collecting area in the middle of the palace area or in the town. The collecting, of course, or the collection is understood as the akora. Akora, the place of collection. Akora. Can you guess what word will come out of the word akora? Anybody? Nobody can guess? Oh, let's see it. What is it? You said it. Agora, that's right. Does it make sense? Yes. Is this cool? So you're seeing the early evolution of the square as a place of the collection of livestock. And you can see that it'll be connected to a market area, a commercial center, and then eventually a political center. And it starts here. Isn't that fun? And these collectors are gathering up in this area, obviously for food provision. Fun stuff. Thank you for adding that into there. So now, of course, they mentioned the fact that they feed these animals. I mean, I'm giving you the details here, and then you get ready for the banquet. Well, guess what? We have the records of them getting ready for the banquets. I'll tell you. So we have records of the cloth and the wool and the oil that is brought because, you got to have light, right? The oil. There's also other records that mention the fact that the Wanex presided at these festivities, these ceremonies. So we have that. And scribes are also mentioned being there. The quantities of the provisions are listed as being under the control of 2 individuals, the Dunio and the Mezewo. So the Dunio is in charge, according to this particular list, of 53 heads of livestock, including 3 cattle, as well as large amount of grain, olives. It specifies the olives are edible, and wine. The Mezowo is responsible for the smaller assemblage of non-animal foodstuffs. So one focuses on the meat products, right? And that's the Du-Ne-Yo. And one focuses on the fruits and the vegetables, the Me-Zo-Wo. And so you have this definition of different kinds of jobs. We do have a good impression of what the banquet for 1,000 or more people had been like. We see that it was in the palace proper, right? And it's interesting because those individuals who are doing the sacrifices, who are providing for the sacrifices, have to always provide 3 animals for religious purposes. Specifically, 3 animals, sheep, a goat, and a pig. These are, quote, paid as a religious obligation. So there you have it. Isn't that great? So they have to tithe. In other words, so a certain a percentage has to be given. Well, out of 53 heads of livestock, I guess they can give away 3, make it a 50. Is that making sense? It makes sense to me. Not quite a tithe, not them, but it is something. Let's go to Pylos, Pylos. This is the last site we'll be looking into. I'll try my best here getting to these topics. Hope you're enjoying yourself. It's located in the southwestern area of the Peloponnese Peninsula. It's been occupied since around 16,000 BCE. Sorry, 16,000, 1,600 BCE. Hopefully not that long. And I want to focus in on this place. This is, to me, is the most interesting of all of them. The city features a really interesting grand palace that was a 2-story building with storerooms and baths and reception rooms, workshops. It even had a sewage system. The settlement was occupied for a while, for at least 200 years. It was destroyed around 1200 BCE. At Pylos, the linear B lists are definitely more complex, mentioning the specific gifts offered to each of these gods. They have discovered over 1,000 tablets, which I'm not going to read through. And most of these tablets are the last 100 years until 1200. Again, Zeus appears to be a prominent deity and is directly paired with Hera, having the very same sanctuary together. So they're obviously consort or husband-wife by this time. Once again, Hera, yes, she enters the picture. She's worshipped as early as 1300 BCE at Pylos. Now, Zeus has a son too by the name of Deimos, which translates sometimes as Zeus's priest, which is fascinating. It's like, is it a son? Is it a priest? Is it there's some kind of, possession of the priest who becomes the son? Ooh, and religious scholars are eating this all up, going, oh, I wonder what that means. Son of Zeus, or is it how does that work? Nothing for you right now. Well, Zeus is a male god. Drum roll, please. He is also understood as a female goddess too, known as the Wea. And the female personification of Zeus had her own special sanctuary, separate from the male one, with her own priestesses and her own servants and everything, and all separate offerings. Wait a minute, Zeus is 2? There's 2 Zeuses? Yeah, wow, who knew? So you have a masculine Zeus worship and a feminine Zeus worship. I hope you're finding this very intriguing, because it is. Okay, so one who's called Hermas Arias is mentioned. So it sounds like Hermes is where, and there's also the word Dionysus also appears without any relevant context. So we're not sure, but there it is. There's Dionysus right there. Dionysoto, right? There it is. Right. Okay. So anyway, so he is worshipped there as well. Yet another deity that's worshipped here, and the most prominent, even over Zeus, is of course Poseidon. As we said, Poseidon, right? There's Poseidon, right? Okay, so, and of course is the god of the sea. Now, he had his own special sanctuary located directly in the city itself, according to the Linear B tablets. Obviously, the Odyssey describes Nestor as making a great sacrifice to Poseidon, and this certainly fits the inscriptional evidence from the Mycenaeans during their time occupying the city. The sanctuary called the Poseidion was recorded as receiving a constant tribute of gifts, indicating the city's treasury was also located where the temple of Poseidon was, the sanctuary. Now, more fun. Tony, this is great. Offerings made at the Poseidonion to Poseidon are specifically listed on various tablets. Get ready. So you're going to know exactly what they offer Poseidon. In order. The first list mentions wheat first, then wine, then one bull, then 10 cheeses, then one ram's fleece, and then honey. The first list, wheat. You want to take note of this because I'm going to make a pattern in a few seconds that you're going to have an aha moment. Wheat, then wine. So wheat, then wine, which is, of course, liquid, right? Drink off, right? One bull, 10 cheeses, one ram's fleece, and honey. Interesting. So you have the grains offered first. And then after that, you have the libations, the wine offered. And then the animal sacrifice, and then gifts. The second list goes as follows. Wheat, again, wine, 2 rams, 5 cheeses, oil, and 1 ram's fleece. A third goes corn, wheat, wine, 2 rams, and a fourth lists, of course, corn, wine, 5 cheeses, and honey. So apparently that last one, the fourth one, was the vegetarian dish. Sorry. It's like, I don't eat today. So for the fourth. So it's like, which menu do you want? Gods and goddesses. I'll choose number 4. We'll go vegetarian right there. We'll just have the corn, the wine, the 5 cheeses, and honey. So no vegan, I'm sorry. Cheese is added there. So what is this? This is pretty amazing because these 4 lists at the Poseidon reveals a consistency of ritual that would be carried down in the cults in the religious services of the ancient Greeks, all the way to the time of the classic Greeks, even into the Roman times. It does not change. This shows since the Mycenaean period, they're just still worshiping, giving the same gifts in the same exact order. Because during the time of the classical Greece, right, it's grains are offered first. And then, then libations, like with wine, and then the animal sacrifice is offered up. And then, of course, after that, gifts of certain kinds. So there you have it. Okay, now, you ready for some more? We're getting to the good stuff here. There is an association called the Poseidoias, which administered the call to Poseidon. And it learn about some of the cult practices. One ceremony is called the spreading of the bed ritual. It's a spreading of the bed ritual. And of course, we look at the inventory, and for this spreading of the bed ritual, they have to use a lot of oil for libations, lots of oil. Of course, scholars act like, spray the bed ritual and oil for libations. Burkert and others theorized. Walter Burkert, a very famous, credentialed scholar in the field, he theorized that it could refer to some kind of sacred marriage ceremony act. So there's a sacred marriage going on with Poseidon and through the spreading of the bed ceremony. Now, another big surprise for you. Like Zeus, Poseidon was worshipped also in female form, called Poseidaia, who was worshipped in her own separate sanctuary called the Pakyani, located somewhere in Pylos. In fact, it mentions that there happened to be 45 slaves that specifically belonged to the sanctuary. 45 slaves. I know your mind is blown. I thought that the Mycenaeans are patriarchal. They are, but they're still inheriting these ideas from other groups. And I'm looking at this, and you go, wait a second. You got Poseidon, you got Zeus as worship as a male deity and a female deity. You have Poseidon worship as a male deity and a female deity. This is pretty remarkable. Also worshipped here at the site of the feminine Poseidon was the great mistress, great Potnea. So there is a goddess that is worshipped here as well, along with her, who is him at the other place. And the offering to her, sharing the sanctuary, is oil and honey were typically offered, along with perfume. And the priests and priestesses were also anointed with robes of purification. So we do have some male priests in this case. There's another celebration that we have called the bearing the throne around, which we don't have any detail. Apparently, though, that they just kind of move this throne around, maybe perhaps in a procession. Who knows? We also have Artemis being worshipped here, and she has her own series of slaves as well. Now, the Linear B tablets reveal much about the social divisions within the Mycenaean world. So we're going through this. We see the social divisions that really, and we see from the tablets, we realize at the very top was the Wanax, or the kings. The second, and of course, the Wanax, after the Wanax, are the military leaders. So that's the Rowakata. After that, we find the general citizens, or the population, including landowners. They're known as the Damo. The Damo. Yeah, I know. The demos, right? Damo. Ooh, cool. Yeah. So the people are already, the word is already there at that time. And then those who are the land tillers. They're known as, these are the non-native residents of nearby Mycenaean, and they are known as the Wargonean Kama. And so the stratification basically is at the very top, you got the warlord, the military leaders, the landowners, and the other citizens, and the tillers of the land. And that's the social levels that we extrapolate from these linear B tablets. We also realize that, I know we're out of time, but we do have some personal names of one of the Wanaxes here as well, but we don't have time. His name is Eke Leon, but we got to keep moving on. So we also do have another mistress worship known as the Potnea of horses. So you got the mistress of horses being worshipped. I find that interesting. And as I said before, Atemete, or Artemis, was worshipped there, and she the tablets refer to both, in this case, in her case, both male and female slaves of the gods, but still she is attended by only priestesses. So, but she still have male and female slaves. There's also the worship of a divine mother, Mater Teia in the dative, who's worshipped there, who's literally simply the mother of the gods. So, wow. We take a look at the various tablets. Whew. There's others too. Again, I'm looking at my time here, and I know I have to sum up everything. I'll just summarize a few things here, and I'll talk about the conclusion. Looking at this, the communal sacrifices were very well organized, as well as the feasting. The ceremonies not only happened in town, but there are also regional areas where celebrations occurred. But all the bookkeeping was done at Pylos. So there you have that. Going through here, accounting documents, scribes. They have this interesting thing where they they get bronze, and they're used as religious gifts. And then for some strange reason, the religious, after they use it, they use bronze over to the military to be reforged and used for weapons. And so there you have it. But let's talk about the conclusion. We do have records of the end. Yeah, we have records of the end and of Pylos. And we're going to be going into that right now. Here it is. So there's a tablet that's inscribed in haste at Pylos, dating from the very last period of the Mycenaean habitation. And it lists gold, men, and women who are being sent directly to many sacred sanctuaries. So many scholars say that they're sending their people away for a few reasons. Now, the question is, are they being sent to these sanctuaries for their safety? So one group of scholars say, yeah, they're sending them off for their safety because they're very important. And so they're sent off to these sanctuaries so they'll be protected. So when the sea people arrive, these marauders, around 1200 BCE, they'll be safe. That's one group of scholars. The other group of scholars say, no. They mention the fact that they're there to be offerings. And so other scholars will say, no, they're sending these individuals off to these faraway sanctuaries to be sacrificed as a human sacrifice. So you can see, they're trying to save you on one side, and there's like, no. They're going to be sacrificed because they're appealing to the gods and goddesses who save them from the sea people. So it's kind of how you look at it. Glass half empty, half full. You decide. Safety first, right? Soon the attacks from the sea people arrived against the Mycenaeans. The palace of Pylos was destroyed by an invasion around 1200. The first attack involved, we know, a direct assault on the priests, but no actual burning. So for some strange reason, the sea people are just attacking the religious people. In fact, the scribe had a chance to write about it just before the palace was destroyed. The tablet reads as follows: the enemy grabbed all the priests from everywhere and without reason murdered them secretly, simply by drowning. I am calling out to my descendants for the sake of history. I am told that the northern strangers continued their terrible attack, terrorizing and plundering until a short time ago. And that was translated by Michael Ventris. This is interesting, right? Wow. So, yeah, then there's a reference to those who are the watchers who are guarding the coasts, and explains how the command of Malleus at Oetono, 50 men of Oetono, to go to Oikalia, and then basically just mentions a whole bunch of list of men. So it seems to be a dispatch of men to either fight against the enemy or to flee. We don't know. But all we know is that the last tablet written speaks of rowers being drawn from 5 places to go to a place called Pleron on the coast, and other lists mentioning 443 rowers and crews for at least 15 ships. And another list speaks of 700 men as defensive troops, but there's gaps in this tablet. And around 1,000 men were marked down, so perhaps connected to these 30 ships, but we don't know. The city was destroyed. So those Mycenaeans certainly adopted the Minoan ways of keeping records, and very thorough records, all the way to the very end. Working away, and of course these tablets are preserved because they burned the palaces, and these were written and baked in the mud, and good way to fire it up in the oven, so to speak. And so we can read about it to this day. So I think I gave you a lot of details. What do you think? So this is a lot of material. Probably your brain is going, stop it. Good. In review, we have gone over the Linear B. We've gone over the archive sites. We looked at the significance uh, as viewing through these tablets of the importance of Mycenaean civilization. And one of the things that really grabs my attention is, despite the fact that there's a Greek Dark Ages in between the Mycenaean period and the Archaic and then the Classical period, there does seem to be a lot of continuity. And it does turn out that the Iliad and the Odyssey that was composed, not written, all right, but composed by one or a group of individuals, a Homer or a group, although you look at the gloss, it looks like one person doing the glossing of all the collection of rhapsodies, right? Like Bohemian Rhapsody, these stories are being put together as collections of packages, but that's another topic altogether. Anyway, it does appear that the Iliad and the Odyssey, a lot of the fixtures are still consistent with the Mycenaean period. Even though, yes, there's a lot of changes that happen that are added. For example, iron, but and other kinds of bits and pieces. Still, it does seem that the Iliad and the Odyssey is faithful to a certain degree of the Mycenaeans and who they are and who they worshipped. It's the majority of the gods that are mentioned in the Iliad and the Odyssey are referenced already during the Mycenaean period in the 14th, 13th, and 1200s BCE. So, hey, guess what? Linear B did solve that problem. It looks like that the Iliad and the Odyssey is getting more accurate all the time as time goes on. And I find is also very fascinating is a consistency of just even the worship of these gods in the very same way, in the very same order. And another takeaway is, what in the world? One thing that didn't continue, and that is Zeus as worship as a god and worship as a goddess, and Poseidon worship as a god and worship as a goddess, where there's separate installations, separate sanctuaries, separate priesthoods or priestesses, right? And this is just mind-blowing. And tells you that there still is this remnant of indigenous beliefs and perspectives that are influential to the Mycenaeans, like for example the Minoans, in their understanding of a religion. And so there you have it. So hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you so much for being here. And see you next time. If you have any questions, I'm here.
I had a question.
Hey, Laurel.
Hi. You probably know that I'm going to ask this. Do you know what sort of perfumes they offered to the goddess?
What kind of perfumes do they offer? Well, they offered a lot of oil-based as well as floral-based perfumes, and we do have residue of those perfumes. We can test it in those bottles. They have remained in some cases. I don't know exactly the kind. I wish I did, but that would be a great study. Oh, but yeah, they used all kinds.
Thank you.
Another question. You guys having fun yet?
Maybe you answered all their questions.
Did I answer all the questions? Well, let's close with one more number. You guys ready? You guys ready to do this? So I'm going to be drawing a number. What is this? Yay! Good job. I think it's 233. Excellent. Is this fun? Oh wait, I'm gonna add a few more. Just a minute. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. One more. And okay. Okay. Remember this what it represents? Everything's in tens. You get this one? All right. This is 100. All right. Anybody get this one? You know? Hey, Margie, can you put up the numbers? Oh, don't worry about it. Okay. Anybody get this one? There he is. There we go. Thank you, Jack. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Put it down. We're done. Yeah, that's good. There it is. There's a number graph. You want to take a picture of that? You can. You guys got it? Good night, Thomas. That is the right answer, by the way. Okay. All right. So did we learn a lot? Are you walking away? And one other thing I want to bring up, I just can't resist. Does anybody have a favorite Mycenaean symbol? Anybody? Anyone that you like the best? Or one that just stood out, or just you like them all?
Was it the NI that had the fancy trident?
Was it the NI? Yes, it was. You like that one?
That's a nice one. Well, I had a question about the numbers. Did
Yeah,
they do any higher? Did they do any higher math, or was it just simply for like accounting that they used the numbers?
Did they do? Yes, no, they did math. Although they did higher math, not real high math, but yeah. Oh, I mean, you can see this would actually work pretty well with math. So yeah.
Oh.
But a lot of it was indeed record keeping. Yeah. So yeah, I like the word daughter. Yeah, the two. Yeah, that's cute. So the TU is the apple. That was my favorite. I think apple my eye. Okay. Although I thought that the Ma one was interesting. It really did look like she was wearing a dress there, right? But yeah. All right. I just go ahead and I'll go ahead and conclude since we don't have any more questions. Thank you so much. What am I talking about next time? You guys know? Who knows what I'm talking about next time? Okay, so all right, all right, we'll just go ahead and close it up. All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great night.